in getting familiar with the domain and the potential opportunities that are there upon graduation. So we are conducting this specially for the E21 and E22 batch students who have just started their computer engineering specialization, but we have also invited E23 students waiting to select their specializations, the interested students to join and take part in the discussion. So let's get started. So to give you a very quick intro to what's going to happen today, we are going to have a panel discussion. We have a panel of esteemed resource persons here. And we are going to talk about the career prospects that will be available to the graduating students. The approach we are going to take is, there are a lot of different types of career paths, career opportunities that are available to the graduating engineers, mainly in the industry. I think mainly in the software industry, but also other related technology industries, both in Sri Lanka and outside. And there are opportunities in research, and especially there are a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurship. And then there are opportunities for further studies for those who are interested. Also, once those students complete the further studies, there are more opportunities available in the job market, different careers, again in the industry, research, and then entrepreneurship. So we have a panel of resource persons today with us representing these different career paths. They have taken the different career paths after graduating as engineers, and they have they have reached heights in their careers. So all of these engineers or resource persons are alumni of Pera Engineering. So let me quickly introduce who are with us today here. We have first Ahesh Perera. He's from the E06 batch of engineering. Perera, so he's currently the director of software engineering at Mad Mobile. So he'll be bringing us the perspective of the software industry. Then we have Dhammika Marasinghe. He was a student in E11 batch, an alumni of Pera again. He's currently the technical lead at 99X, and he's also the immediate past chair of IEEE Sri Lanka section. So he will be bringing in perspectives again from the industry as well as the professional community. He's very active. He's a very active volunteer in the professional community in Sri Lanka. So he'll be bringing those perspectives as well. And we then have Dinindu Thilakarathna. He's from the E16 batch, one of our relatively recent graduates. He's a CPU performance modeling engineer at ARM in Cambridge, UK. And then we have Dr. Hiranya Jayakody. He's an electronics engineering. He was an electrical electronics engineering alumni from E06. He's currently the CTO and co-founder of HEO. That's a space technology company that he co-founded. And he also holds a PhD in mechatronics engineering at UNSW. So he took a very different career path, if you will. And he'll be bringing us perspectives on higher studies and then entrepreneurship together, which would be an interesting combination. Then we have Dr. Isuru Herath. He's from E02 batch. He's a performance architect at ARM, Cambridge, United Kingdom. He also holds a PhD at University of Manchester, PhD in computer science. And he is a very experienced engineer, architect in computer CPU design and verification. So he'll be bringing in lots of perspectives from there. And he's also very actively engaged with the current student community at computer engineering here. Currently, he's the president of the ACES alumni community. So he'll have a lot of things to share with us. And then we have Kushan Senanayaka from E14. He's the CEO and co-founder of WaveZync. He'll be bringing us perspectives on entrepreneurship, especially the challenges in getting into entrepreneurship straight after graduation, or even while you're even as a student, maybe even. So then we have Samurdhi Karunarathne. He's from the E13 group of students, and he's currently a senior software engineer on deep learning inference workflows at NVIDIA. He's also holding a master's degree in electrical and computer engineering from University of California, Los Angeles. He is also a member who is very closely involved with the activities that we are conducting at the department. Then last but not least, we have Dr. Asitha Bandarayanaye. He's from the E96 batch of engineers. Everyone here should know him. He's a senior lecturer at the department. He's also the consultant CTO at Learn. And he did his PhD at the University of Cincinnati, USA. So I will hand over to Dr. Asitha Bandarayanaye as the moderator of the panel today to take over from here onwards.
Thanks, Isuru. Good afternoon to everybody in Sri Lanka, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the gentlemen joining us from different corners of the world. Thank you so much, as always. We really appreciate you coming along all the time when we need your service, and we really appreciate that. Now, before moving on, so we will, as Isuru said, we will look at different aspects of career prospects, starting from the local industry, entrepreneurship, to higher studies, and jobs and industry and entrepreneurship overseas. So I will have questions directly to members, as well as open questions. So whenever I have open questions, feel free to jump in and share your thoughts. And also, I would like to invite Professor Roshan Ragal and Dr. Isuru Navin also to join with their questions as we move along. And one other request from all the panelists. In the first round, I'll go with different questions, and when I ask you for the first time, I would appreciate if you can just briefly give a kind of introduction as to how you got to this place from your graduation, because I think that would give interest our young students. So if you can give a brief introduction of how you got to this place from your graduation before you start your first time you give your answers. Okay, so without wasting any more time, let's get into the discussion. So as I said, let's start with the local industry. We have people with experience and also a lot of connections and contribution in the industry. So let me start with Ahesh. Right, Ahesh. Now, briefly, let me just give you an open question for you. How do you see the current local industry, and where is it going?
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me in this session. And I know my background is a bit of disturbing to you, but sorry for that. This is the only place. I'm actually at my home studio. This is the only place that I have in weekends because I have 2 kids. Every inch in the house, utilized by them. So I can't have any session outside of this room. So this is my place. So sorry about that. And it for somehow Zoom doesn't allow me to add a background effect. It asks me to upgrade my Zoom. I don't have time for that because I just joined. I rarely use Zoom actually. We are on Microsoft Teams and all. So sorry for that. Just forget it.
No
right. So thanks for the introduction also, Isuru. Actually, Isuru, myself and Hiranya from the same batch, E06. To come to Dr. Asitha's question, current industry, we can split the question to two. Right now, I don't think we can discuss only about the industry in Sri Lanka, right? Because when it comes to software engineering field, especially, how we see it now is it's global. It was anyway global, and it has been the case for some time as well. But after this COVID season, where most of the companies started remote working, and they allow full month or maybe every day you can work from anywhere. So I think that is where the turning point, because even before COVID, we have been working from home whenever we wanted, but the usual aspect was to go to office, meet colleagues, meet your teams, and then work with together. But after this remote era started like fully, not only for software engineering, right, as you all know, so even schools everywhere, even government offices in Sri Lanka started remote working. So I think in that case, right now we can't just isolate the industry in Sri Lanka and talk about it. So I think you all also agree with that. So we have to think in that angle. Otherwise, we will lose the battle, right? So if you are thinking, just to be graduated and then get my degree and then, learn a couple of programming languages and then find a place or a company where, they do that, software on that languages, and then, go like, day job and do it. I don't think that is the case anymore, right? So the global industry, I think, going very well, right? But when it comes to certain countries, right? So after actually COVID, there were a couple of countries faced, the economic collapses and everything. So we have also seen in Sri Lanka also the part of their companies actually they closed off, right? But at the same time, there are other things, the companies, they're starting, right? Most of the startups are there. Likewise. So I think overall industry going well, and the job market and the opportunities available even with this AI boom and everything. So we can talk about that maybe in the latter part of the session. I don't want to fill up everything now, but in general, to answer your question, Dr. Asitha, in general, industry is going well. Only thing is we need to shift our mindset to think about it's global, and don't limit your thinking to find a job after your graduation in Sri Lanka. So you can work from here and you can work from anywhere, right? So I have friends work for me, or as well as other companies in my everywhere in the world, different time zones and everything. So likewise, I think that's the mind shift we need to have to start the session also. Then, even when it comes to research programs, when it comes to academic higher studies, or entrepreneurship and everything, right? To start your own business with the degree that you are going to get here. So I think that mindset have to be shifted to a global mindset. Then, it will be very easy, and it will open a lot of doors for you all. I guess I answered in general, but we can go to specific as well going forward.
Yeah, actually, absolutely brilliant start, Ahesh. Thank you. Actually, I was hoping to come to that about the global industry and how we are part of it later, but you started by hitting the nail on the head. I mean, obviously, I think I think maybe I asked the wrong question to start with, maybe, but I think maybe it's right the question to ask as well, because and I thank you, like, because it's a brilliant start, and I think you started it in the exactly the right way. And I'm wondering where to go after this one. Anyway, right. But yeah, so I think that's the key message. I think that everyone will resonate with, and I think what we are trying to get our the next generation to understand as well. So before moving on to the next question, I can kindly just give a quick background about how you got to this place from. I think you graduated in 2010, was it?
2011, actually.
Yeah, okay.
2010 is the year that I started my industry experience with the internship program. That I mean back then maybe Professor Agal or Isuru remembers that I was a mobile enthusiast those days. Back then, all my projects and everything I wanted to do something on mobile development. That is where my passion was actually. So back then, even iPhone wasn't so much popular. So we've been programming on Symbian OS for Nokia. I can't remember the models, but that is where we started actually. Then as soon as I got the opportunity to internship at DirectFN, I started mobile development, started with BlackBerry and then Android and then moved to iOS development. So that is how I finished my internship and then as a mobile engineer. And then I started my career at 2011 as a software engineer on mobile, basically. So as iOS developer. So then 2 years I was there. Actually, 1 year I was there, and then I got promoted to senior engineer. And then iPhone, iPad, all of the iOS applications we've been developing. And then I moved to a different company. Back then it was called LeapSet. This is currently Cisco Labs. I was there, and then I actually moved like after a couple of years, like two and a half years, I moved to web development. It was not like, even though my passion was to start mobile development, but when looking at the career path and then the opportunities that I had at that point was a little bit different, and then I wanted to explore other areas as well. Then I directly moved to web development, first with backend and then for the front end. Likewise, I got promoted as well parallelly, and then I got a lot of opportunities open for me. Then I became a tech lead, and then there's another story also, probably Isuru remembers that. So I actually wanted to try out one of my companies also. Like then actually we, myself and a couple of other friends got partnered and started a startup, but that things didn't go well. To be honest, because at that point, I think we had enough energy to try startups, but I don't think we had enough everything else to, run a company. So maybe that was not the right time. Maybe I'll try in the future. I don't know. So, and that in that case, actually, I take a step back and then again joined the industry, the same company. Back then, that was called Cake Labs. And they promoted me, and then they actually sent me to US to headquarters, partnering with Cisco. There I was working as a senior tech lead, and then for 2.5 years I was there. I got a brilliant opportunity there to transform all their legacy applications to the newest technologies. So that is where I got a lot of exposure to transforming business models, right? Because Cisco is like 50-year-old company, and they have been working in the IT with like AS400 systems, like IBM systems and everything. So that is where their main technology partner. But with the newest technology, the cutting edge technology, they wanted to move everything to web-based solutions, because they have like many customers around the world. So that is why that is the opportunity actually I got to transform their technology stack. After that, 2020, I came back to SL due to family commitment, and then I relocated here. And then I moved to Wiley, John Wiley and Sons. Probably some of you all have heard about it. They are in the education domain. They're basically creating applications, building applications for research. The students and the people who are doing researchers, the lecturers, basically in the academic domain. It's again like distributed like between a lot of countries. So I worked there as a engineering manager. Multiple teams were reporting to me, and then that is I basically my responsibility there was to enable them to practice use best practices in software engineering, and the way that they're working. We were actually in the transform period, so we started practicing a lot of the methodologies, the processes and everything. So that is where I guided them, as well as I contributed them well. And after that, I again make a move and then join with Mad Mobile back in 2022 as a senior manager engineering. And then after a year, I got promoted to director of software engineering. Right now, the all 4 key engineering pods are reporting to me. And then Mad Mobile is a company based in US, Tampa, and they are mainly in retail and restaurant domain. So we are part of the restaurant side because along with my experience with being in Leapset to Cake to Cisco Labs, that is where my most expertise are coming from, because and the business domain and knowledge. So that is where I'm currently helping, and then driving the engineering arm here to deliver the products that they want.
Okay, thanks, Ahesh. I think one of the key things, I think we can take it like you've been moving from here and there to different things, but I think the education that you got at Pera, I think help you to seamlessly move around with a good background. I assume that's one of the key things I think we keep on emphasizing as well.
Of course.
Right. Okay. Yeah, Isuru. We can let people know that that they can ask questions, right, in the Q&A.
Yeah, I think there are some popping up already.
Yeah, we will take it up as we go. I mean, you can help me with taking up those questions.
Sure.
Okay, okay, moving on to the same question before we move on to the things that Ahesh brought up. Let me talk to one of our very distinguished, very recent alumni, Dhammika Marasinghe, who's our immediate past chair of IEEE Sri Lanka, as well as a very active member at SLASCOM, working with actually developing the next generation of what do you call the talent. And very good to have you, Dhammika, here. The same question, how's local industry? Let's look at your perspective about the local industry and how it's doing and where it's going.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dr. Asitha, and also getting me also invited to this discussion. First, I'll quickly go through like where I am, and then that will make things easier. For myself, from 11 batch, but we came a bit late to the university, kind of fast-tracked, 3.5 years, and then graduated in 2016. But I kind of took a bit of a break afterwards, soon after the graduation, because from grade 5, I've been outside. So decided, okay, this is the only time that you get to have a full freedom. So kind of took a break, and that's the longest I've ever been after grade 5 in home actually. So after that, I was actually engaging in a few of the startups, and then also with some of the companies like Zone 24/7 and 99X. Even the startups that I've been engaging are mostly like safe zone startup, I'd say, because we don't have to worry too much about the money side of things, because they're attached to some entities or like getting certain other engagements. So had to like kind of experience both side of this entrepreneur kind of a startup side of things, as well as with bigger side of companies. From the work that I've been doing, mostly I've been engaging with the innovation teams. That's not primarily like looking at the research angle of it, but just like utilizing the existing cool tools, the engineering tools that we have, and how exactly we can develop and bundle something up, and then getting them to production, test out whether that work or things like that. And even right now, are mostly engaging with some of the European clients in terms of doing some mostly the optimizations, because another term that's going on these days is most of the softwares that the world needs now is almost done. So you will be doing most of the improvements on top of those. That's kind of the word around the software industry these days. As of the Sri Lanka as a destination and the IT industry, we are quite good, and being a resilient industry right now, making about 1.8 billion US dollar inflow. If you check the net overall, I think given that like we don't have a lot of other imports also to get this amount done, we are quite good in that angle. But as of the if we want to like increase, then obviously we don't have the talent, and even on that talent, the quality of the talent and also very specific areas, we don't have much. Right now, the local industry is about less than 100,000 in terms of people who are actually in computer aspect. There are other like BPM and related areas, which is like some in about another additional 75,000. But what the word around these days, and even like sometimes you would see even politically and all of that, this 200,000, 250,000 workforce. So that is not just focusing on the IT industry, it's focusing on all the digitization efforts that require for the not only the export companies that are involved, but also the digitization of the local economy, the government efforts and all of that requires a bit of a bigger composition. What we've seen in the past, at least for about like 2018, 19, we've been heavily like relying on any people who's doing any sort of computing degree, that is like be it the IT degrees, computer science, computer engineering, software engineering, and all of that. Companies were like going after them because they didn't have much inflow coming in from the universities. Now, given the efforts of multiple organizations and even the academics and all of that, we are now come to a like much better place in terms of the supply side of things. But then again, we are facing more than enough problems in terms of how exactly we can upscale that same maintaining the quality. So right now, if you think of, I mean, there are from the student perspective and sometimes even the university's perspective, the biggest complaint is there's less internships now, less opening in the companies. And from the companies, the complaint is we can't hire special people who actually can do some work. So that's kind of like the debate from both sides. And there were obviously like, given some of the market conditions in especially US and Europe, there have been some of the downtowns in some of the companies. But as overall, the net-wise, the industry is growing in Sri Lanka and are also seeing good efforts in terms of bringing down the business. But what we are also noticing, the work that Sri Lanka was doing is kind of changing over the time. Previously, about like 10 years back, most of the time Sri Lanka was kind of like acting as offshore destination. We'll get down some of the businesses, and even on that, like sometimes it will be mostly, I mean, some of the early businesses are primarily on quality and all of that aspect of it. Now, later on, then we've seen a lot of engineering centers getting established in the Sri Lanka, given that we had a bit of a good background in the some of the talent that we were producing, because that's engineering, maths, and kind of like having a bit of a good base in the all related areas. So having a bit of a good base in engineering. But then again, in the recent years, what we've seen, we've been having more managers sometimes acting in Sri Lanka, but as of if you want to work on upscale game, then there are other peers in the region itself who's are more economical in terms of doing the other layers. So now we see sometimes like they might even some of the global client would like hire a certain team, and but they'll have a leadership role coming down from Sri Lanka likewise. So there are much more opportunities now in the Sri Lankan industry in the leadership roles, where they'll actually gain control and engage with the global engagement, sometimes managing global teams. And that's where we see this sometimes kind of a turbulence in the talent pipeline. And that's where I think special programs like computer engineering and all of that have a leading edge, where they not focusing on the other aspect of the software engineering or the computer science and all of that, but focus a little bit more onto the computer engineering, and then actually like tap into the correct market. And that's kind of the like sentiment I can share from what's happening in the industry. Maybe later on we can discuss exact details as we.
Thanks, Dhammika. I mean, just before moving on, I mean, as even Ahesh wanted to ask this question, like, I mean, we are looking at like, very generic things. So let me be very specific, because we are now seeing the industry is expanding and it's doing really well. There's so much demand, and also there's a problem for the talent that we are making, because you specifically said not enough good computer engineers or talent that is made. There's so much opportunity. That's just good. So what do you mean by, let's be very specific, because I think that will be important for our students to understand. What do you mean by good? What should they do? What do they want to develop?
I mean, for anyone who's kind of interested in going into detail, they can even refer to SLASCOM's employability skills report that came in 2024. There'll be new version coming in this year as well. Two main issues that we've been noticing few years. I mean, communication and all of that engagement has been a problem throughout, because we've been engaging mostly not only in the local clients, engaging the global clients, and as of the industry, software engineers and even the intern is expected to go on client calls and that level in most of the engagement. So whatever you have in your mind, you will have to figure out a way to share that to the others people, and that sharing and the communication overall, not just the proper English. I mean, doesn't have to be perfect in terms of writing or anything, but whatever the ideas that you have in mind, put it in the table in any discussions that you have is very key. And that's becoming a bit of a bigger problem. And sometimes even if some of the bigger players who are coming down to Sri Lanka and when they want to expand, this is a problem that they've been kind of complaining also. So what they are saying is some of the peers, maybe like, let's say India or some of the others, they'll have their own version of English, but they'll still speak and work out. But sometimes they're trying to get the same in the Sri Lankan new fresh graduates who are coming out, they've been challenging out. So that has been a bit of a problem on one side. But in the last two reports, one of the other concern that we've been getting at, the people who are coming in not actually having the adequate technical understanding. That is mostly, I think we can partly blame on all the platforms and all the different things that we have right now, because doing software engineering right now is pretty easy, and at the onboarding level that's becoming much more easier with all the different tools like co-pilots and all of the things that are coming up. So having that understanding, mostly in terms of the fundamental understanding in most of things, because now you can get things done through the AI tools, mostly these co-pilots, but you have to ask correct questions, you have to evaluate and do these code reviews and all of that. And if you think of the industry, I mean, most of the time you will be engaging on doing certain optimizations, debugging, rather than actually trying fresh codes. So that's what will mostly happen. So you actually spend like more time understanding the code, what's happening there, what exactly are the certain bottlenecks or certain problems, and then also like where exactly like we can improve this. So around that, that's where I think most of the companies are also saying, I think this analytical aspect of it, and also like going down to all these areas. And bit of a newer trend now we are seeing is especially like even as of a company, some of the newer client acquisitions that we are having are not just the pure software, because previously most of the engagements that we begin in are kind of pure softwares, but now given the certain advancements and also the engagements in the other parts of the world in terms of like all these IoT embedded related innovations, now we are seeing more and more cyber physical systems also getting into the system. And they are also, I think, is a bit of a leading nature, because not all of them would have understanding on a bit of like what's happening behind this. So I think that's again is a bit of area of focus that kind of companies were complaining. The other few problems that the companies are also having in terms of bit of expectation is a confusion, because understanding what exactly is the industry, and then also figuring out what they want from the industry, what actually they can get, versus all different kind of things that can happen in the industries also has been a bit of a concern. And also especially in the last few years, keeping the talent within the Sri Lanka, or how exactly like we can keep some of the contributions back to the country also has been a bit of a problem. I think those are a few key areas.
Thanks, Dhammika. Thanks a lot for that explanation. So we'll get back to those things, I think, with the others as well. So one of the things that you mentioned is that you got involved in some startups, but it's kind of like you said, safe zone startups. While you were doing. So one of the people who really we see that didn't take that path. Had to jumped straight ahead into the entrepreneurship is our own Kushan Senanayaka from E14 batch. So, before moving on to the foreign domain, I want to wrap up with what is happening in the local industry. So, Kushan, you're around here, right? So, Kushan, what made you go, start your own thing straight away? Not after actually graduation. I think you started right when you are in the final year or in the university. So, what made you start your own thing? Start right away, and how are you looking at it now, and how do you see that potential path for our graduates as well?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me, sir. So yeah, so regarding the questions, so I think we can like discuss from our experience and relate that to the current students as well. So in order to start a startup, actually, it was very intimidating at first because there are a lot of industry giants, industry pillars that are already established, and like because like most of our colleagues, and we can just apply to a company, get interviewed and get hired, and we can get a good salary. And also that's what our parents and our families, our colleagues, our spouses, all of them are expecting, right? Because you spend time for around 4 to 5 years getting the degree, and after the graduation, like you can get a stable salary and good compensation and also good industry exposure as well, right? So that's what the usual expectations, right? So like in order to like not do that is a high risk, very risky, and also like most people like get intimidated. Even ourselves also got intimidated. So we tried first of all during our as you said during our final years we got into freelancing as well. So that's what we did in the initial phase. So then after that we got some like personal jobs and all that. But after that two of my colleagues, actually three, it was three at the time. So we got together and decided, so why don't we make our own business, right? But we also had a lot to lose because our parents were expecting a lot, and they like during those times there were a lot of other risks as well, right? The COVID was coming because it was in around 2020. So there were like a lot of factors that like pulled our leg. Also like it's the problem in the current situation because people, like a lot of people say because there are a lot of like software degrees and all that. People say software engineer. So that's what people usually say, right? So as the others already discussed, you have to be a good software engineer in order to get hired as well, right? So I think there are a lot of challenges in the industry as well, but in order to get to the startup field, so what we for the question you asked, so why did we choose to start a startup? So first of all, like mostly for the freedom as well as trying out new technologies, right? So I think our senior members also can most likely, because a lot of the projects, existing projects, they have specific tech stacks. Either they do a revamp to a new tech stack, or like what the client asks or something like that. So the freedom is very limited in the industry, right? Because obviously there are some cases like when you are going to senior level, when you are a tech lead, you can decide the architecture and tech stack and all that. But in order to try out the new technologies, new opportunities, so that's one of the main things we wanted to do, because one of my colleagues, Kasun, is really updated and he's a really good technical guy. So our lecturers also know him very well. So he also wanted to try out new existing and emerging tech stacks. So that's one of the main reasons we wanted to do a startup. And also another thing was the freedom, because I think most of this may be an egoistic thing to say, but like most of us are like reluctant. I wouldn't say the reluctant is the right word, but like take orders. So like we don't want to work under someone. We want to work for ourselves. So that's another one of the main things we want to do as well, right? So so when you are trying to take a decision in a project, we wanted to take the decision ourselves rather than listening to what someone else say and okay, yeah, that's what we should do. So that's another thing we wanted as well. So it was a very as I said, it was a very risky venture, but we took it anyway, and I definitely think it was worth it. Considering now where we are, I think it was worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant, Kushan. Thanks a lot. We will come back to that. We have more entrepreneurs in our midst. So let's come back to the entrepreneurship and taking risk later as well, and discuss about that. And I mean, we admire what you have done, and we hope more of our students will be more adventurous and bold like you. We want that's where we want to go, and I think as even Dhammika mentioned, right? We are moving on to the new domain of a Sri Lankan industry. So we want more like you to take risk and make a difference. So thanks a lot, and it's very inspiring. So one of the things is that we've been talking a lot about software engineering and all that. Maybe our students also would think that even though we talk about computer engineering, that our people are just working in software development and all that, but it's absolutely not true. So let me bring in one of the most senior members, alumni from our department, Dr. Isuru Herath, who went to so the other path that you normally see is either you go to local industry or go for higher studies. Isuru, he's from Hero 2 batch, one of the batches I actually taught to a long time back. And good to have you here again, Isuru. And just about, and also you're working in the hardware industry. So I want your perspective on two aspects mainly. One is actually three aspects. One is going for higher studies, right? Compared to the local industry, what made you go for higher studies? And one of the biggest misconceptions our students have is that when you go for higher studies, it's just to go to academia or become a lecturer or something. But you went to higher studies and you are now working for ARM and they've been working there. So it's not just about getting to academia. PhD means that getting more opportunities and all that. So comparing just going to the local industry versus going for higher studies, and also give a background about what you're doing and the opportunities that are there globally in this industry.
Thank you, Dr. Asitha. Yes, I'm one of the old people here in the panel. And also, I like the picture you picked. I looked quite young there. Yes, so just to give you a brief intro, I'm from Isuru 2 batch. So I started quite earlier than most of the other panelists. And I graduated in 2007. And upon graduation, I wanted to do higher studies. And during my undergraduate studies, apart from most of my other batchmates, I think I was the only one sort of has very high interest on the CPU microarchitecture, embedded systems, that kind of thing. Most of my batchmates were into software development and they were choosing that path. And I wanted to get more. And at that time, we only had 1 or 2 courses on embedded systems and computer architecture. So I took them, but I felt like that wasn't enough for me. I wanted to get more insight. And then also I was thinking on a academic career path. So I thought, like Asitha sir said, to go do a PhD and come back and teach at Pera. So I was looking for career higher studies opportunities, and luckily I found a research group that they were doing advanced computer architecture related things. That's in Manchester, UK. So I wrote to the professor, and Professor Ragel was helping me to tune my applications and get things correct. And I wrote to the professor there in Manchester, and he saw my interest, and he sort of got me a scholarship to come and join their group. So as part of the research group, I was doing parallel computing. So it was a scary field for my undergraduate, but with the PhD, I went into this domain. And at that time, it was quite booming, because that's the time where people were realizing multi-core, putting frequency up and getting single core to deliver performance is not good enough. So people were thinking, okay, we have to go switch our gears, go to multi-core. That's the future. And then there's a lot of boom happening at that time. So loads of research coming in. So I was like right at the spotlight at that point. So it was very nice experience, because doing a PhD not only gives you the technical in-depth knowledge of the particular topic you choose, but it sort of widen your horizon, because being in a big research group, they do loads of different things to different to what you are doing. That sort of widen your horizon, and then you sort of I'm not saying we have a micro vision living in a country, but this one, you sort of, wow, that's like so many things happening in parallel, that sort of gives you the vision. Okay, it's not only this field, there are so many things interconnected. So as I was sort of getting towards the end of my PhD, I wasn't tired, but I felt like, okay, academia is good, but it's sort of it's not going into the, it's not I mean, the things you are doing ended up being a publication, but it's not really going into anything that the rest of the world see. I'm not criticizing the academia or anything. It just, I felt that that I want things I'm working on to be used by like people. So that was one of the things I felt, okay, so if I'm not going to do academia and teach, what else can I do? So then I started looking into, but I still want to be in something with microarchitecture. So at that point, I found one company called Imagination. They were actually developing GPUs. So I never done GPU. So only thing I know GPUs that's used for video. That was the only thing I knew. But they were doing GPU design and my completely bringing up the microarchitecture of GPU. So I went to them, and then I got a job there, and I was looking into the research team to get future of the mobile GPUs. So we were actually designing and then getting performance of all these things. And that gives me a different perspective. Wow, okay, so things I'm designing actually going into product and then used by millions of people. That's like a proud statement to have. So I stayed there for a few years. So I got my hands on a several future GPU designs that went into mobiles. And at some point I started, because even though I was doing GPU, my main passion is CPU. So I start missing not working in CPU. So then I saw an opportunity at ARM. I came there and I took part of the CPU team, again, doing performance for future generations. And since then, I've been around few years at ARM. Every new generation performance goes through us. We evaluate, and we make sure that we are delivering the best performing CPU for the next generation. So that's my career journey, sort of get me to this point. Sorry, I missed the question you asked, Dr. Asitha.
Yeah, no, that's right. But I mean, I think within your journey, so you handled all the questions within that one. So your story combined with all the other things, actually, it's touched upon every part I asked. But just to re-emphasize on one point, right? So this is like, just to understand that, our computer engineering degree, right? It's just not about software engineering. There are many different career paths, as you're saying. You're built chips that will go into mobiles, and you are now building chips, designing performance for. I mean, I think the army is basically, I think, producing the most number of chips in the world, right?
So we have like different markets. I mean, going from mobile, wearable watches and everything to cloud, cluster, everything. So
yeah. So you're really making contributing directly to what's going out there, and also so that our computer engineering degree makes you go to different sides. It's not just software, right? So that's one of the key things that we want to bring in. It's not just about software. There are enough different career paths that you can take to go and explore, right? That's the other thing I want to touch upon. Like, as we are seeing from others as well, there's a lot more to explore, right? With our background.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of the things I also wanted to tell the future students is don't expect the 4-year degree to teach you everything that is out there that gonna make you straight away into, because what you need is a solid foundation which you will get from Pera. And once you have that, it's your job to make sure how to align the skills you gain in your degree to match into the domain you want to enter. Because I mean, we can't expect in a 4-year degree to teach all possible technical software related things. I mean, for example, when I went to GPU, I had zero GPU knowledge, but the background I had and all the skills I learned throughout the journey helped me transition into this role. I think that's the key thing we need to learn. No, from the university, undergraduate or postgraduate, it's not the technical skills that you get, it's the transferable skills that's the most important. How going to a new domain, how you get the abstract, and then how you can deep dive. That's the key thing. So don't think that you are only going into a software development role. You can if you want to, but that's not the only thing. You can go into various other factors. I mean, the panel today we have is a sentiment to that, because we have people doing aerospace stuff and then different aspects, right? So that is already there. And just also to mention the key one thing Dr. Asitha asked before about going to PhD and academia. Again, that's a choice you can make. You can, if you want to go to PhD and come to academia, but that's not the only thing, because there are so many people. I mean, there are a lot in ARM as well who went to do a PhD and directly came to ARM to carry on their journey. That's not unheard of. There are a lot like that. So you can go from bachelor's to industry, master's to industry, and PhD to industry. That route do exist, and the more you have going this way, you have quite high level of exposure, because doing a PhD, you get exposure to lots of different things, and then you come to do the job, and suddenly you get, I remember people in that domain, they have addressed this problem. So you're not trying to directly get the solution. You get the abstract of the solution into your domain and say, hey, you know what? We have this problem. This is how other people solve, but it's a transferable solution. We can apply a tweaked version of here. That kind of things you can bring to the table.
Yeah, that's a brilliant, Isuru. Thanks a lot. So let's move on. So before moving on to, I want to just touch upon another aspect of going from for higher studies and getting in the industry straight away. So we have our own Samurdhi Karunarathne, who was a recent graduate, relatively recent. Samurdhi went for a PhD, decided to stop at MSc, and now he's working at probably the most talked about company in the world, NVIDIA, who's driving the boom in AI. So Samurdhi, let me just open it up for you. What made you go for higher studies? What made you decide to just stop at MSc and start working at NVIDIA? And how are you seeing the industry at the moment?
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Dr. Asitha and Dr. Isuru and everyone else for inviting me. Yeah, I think right to get right into the question, I think I've always I've never had a point in my life where I didn't see myself going to higher studies. That was always a plan. So it wasn't like a decision that I made. It was just something that was always in me. I think even when I was kind of starting out, I was always planning 2, 3, 4 years ahead. So I was always thinking that far ahead when I was starting my degree. So all of the things that I did, even while I was doing my undergrad, was kind of designed to get me there. So one of the things that I did was to try to get a research internship. And obviously I couldn't I wanted to go somewhere which was like one of the top labs in the world. So I was able to get an internship at Nokia Bell Labs, doing a project where they were using reinforcement learning for optimizing wireless networks. So that's where I got my start into the kind of the AI space. And then well, after graduation, even I think I started applying for the PhD like maybe early in the final year. I started talking to different professors, different universities, and I applied even before I got my final results. I remember having to like prepare like an interim like transcript because I didn't even have my final transcript when I was applying. So anyway, I got into UCLA. That was one of the labs where they were doing a lot of these artificial intelligence applied research on wireless networks, and that was the field that I was interested in. So this is I joined UCLA just before COVID hit. And then there was like 2 years where I was kind of fully invested in my research. I published, I think, 6 papers within those 2 years. And I probably could have graduated in another year. But I was just, getting a little bit tired. I think Dr. Isuru kind of touched on this, which is kind of that you come to a point where you are publishing papers and you are kind of, okay, you are getting citations or whatever, but you don't really see the real world impact, and you want to have that grounding where you see that people are actually using the things that you are developing, right? So that's why I decided, okay, maybe I'll have a change of pace. I didn't actually stop my PhD. What I told my professor was, I'm going to go and maybe spend 1 year in the industry, and I'll come back. And that's what she agreed to. It didn't happen that way, but that's the agreement that I had. So I went there. I joined 2022. I found found this position at NVIDIA where it was kind of the intersection between hardware and software. We were accelerating deep learning models to run really fast on NVIDIA hardware, NVIDIA GPUs. So we were kind of communicating with the GPU teams, the CUDA teams, the cuDNN teams, and at the same time, I was working on optimization algorithms, which are kind of my bread and butter. So I really liked the position. I liked the team, so I just joined there. So that was kind of my path to NVIDIA. Ever since I was a kid, I always kind of dreamed about working in Silicon Valley. And it was a nice thing to, achieve that dream. I think, so yeah. But after, starting at NVIDIA, I think the industry really took off. So I really like the fact that having a front row seat as dealing with all of these companies who are kind of developing AI models and stuff like that. So that's really cool. So how I see the industry is, the industry here, I think it's mostly kind of, I think it's becoming more and more important to have the high level skills that people kind of often forget about during their bachelor's degrees. I think the skills that were important maybe 10 years ago are not as important now. I think just writing, just developing web pages or just writing kind of the more pedestrian tasks, I would say, those are becoming less important. I think what I'm seeing is that we are starting to value more and more the design skills that our candidates have even while interviewing. I think what we've shifted to is not testing like let's say lead code or these kind of hacker rank type questions, but we've started testing more on the side of how do they approach software design, right? If we give them a problem, can they actually come up with their own kind of hierarchy on how the different software stacks work and how you approach the API such that it's usable and it's kind of intuitive and all that stuff. So we start to actually look into those more high level things that actually AI is not really good at the moment. So it's not about just running the code; it's about the design. So that's what I think we are doing more and more now, because even now, like you have a candidate who we are interviewing online. Most of the time the first rounds of interviews are online, so you can't even know whether they're using an AI. So what we try to make happen is that we try to give them questions which are even hard for AI, so the design level questions. So I think Mr. Dhammika spoke about this, which is that we need to have what's actually lacking in our graduates. And I think one of the things we are lacking is the design skills and the fundamental understanding of how things work. And I think more emphasis should probably be put into kind of designing the courses, as well as the students must take upon themselves to develop those skills. Yeah, so that's why I see the industry moving towards where we are prioritizing those skills more and more.
Thanks, Samurdhi. So I think you emphasized a very important point about moving towards the design skills and the fundamentals. So I think we have been very specific about these two in our department and in our program. But as you rightly said, students should understand the importance of why we are pushing onto those areas, and thanks for bringing that up. Thanks. And now let me move on to the other side of this one. So going for higher studies and moving on to starting up a company and all that. So we have Dr. Hiranya Jayakody, who started at did his degree in electrical and electronic engineering, went to do his PhD, and now running his own company. So what made you go for higher studies, and what made you start your own thing, and how is it working out for you so far? Hiranya?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Asitha, and thank you for inviting me to this session. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. I would say, like, if I summarize, it would be like naivety, or like not knowing enough about a thing, right? So you make decisions based on that as well, right? I'm part of like E06 batch, so with Ahesh and Isuru. I'm on the electronic side, but Isuru is one of my best friends, still are. So we've been kind of collaborating across, doing different projects between semesters, working with Professor Roshan as well. So the university years went without much kind of hiccup. I was good at on the exam sides as well, like figured out how to answer well in exams. I don't think I was a really bright kind of student. There were like much talented student who didn't score well at exams. That happened as well at university. So I think I figured out how to get good scores in a way, in retrospect. But at the same time, as as we went into internship, this is where I think our conversations happened between friends as well. I worked at Suntail, so pretty much at the end of the internship, like a question came back, like, do you like at a telecommunication company, you have different layers of engineering, but then like if you take like 90%, it's like maintaining systems. So if you get someone, train someone for like 6 months, like you can pretty much kind of maintain system. I think Dhammika also referred to that. It's maintaining, debugging. So what should we do? Like, what new things can we build? Where is the chance? That was like a recurring theme. So a few of us after uni decided to kind of become like demonstrators while we figure things out. Also allowed us to kind of work a bit more closer with our lecturers, and then like learn a bit about like what opportunities are there. And again, few of us applied for scholarships because doing a PhD without while spending money is like not possible as Sri Lankans. We're very familiar. So a few of us got PhDs. Isuru and I were lucky to kind of get the PhD at the same uni in same semester as well with few of our friends, which was quite lucky, to be honest. So came to UNSW. Then from electronics, I kind of switched to mechatronics because it's kind of robotics, so it was interesting. But when I was doing mechatronics, it went in the direction of mathematics, which is mostly around control theory. So towards the end of PhD, I realized I don't know much about maths, so or control theory. That's what kind of research does to you. Like you find out so many things you don't know about. And then I was like, okay, what next? And computer vision was always very interesting area because I was thinking of the whole theme of how I was thinking about things was around robotics. So you need things to sense, things to process, and things to act. So how can I learn about these things and somehow, right? So electronics is more like covers that a bit. Computer engineering covers that a bit as well. There's mathematics. And then I went to computer vision and did some work on agricultural robotics because Australia is a huge country. Autonomous agriculture is a key theme. So I was working on that. And around the same time, our original plans for both Isuru and myself was to kind of complete the PhD and then kind of return to University of Pera because both of us love the place. We are both from Kandy as well. It's like nice weather, like you know the thing. And then around the same time, one of my friends who's Australian pitched me this idea about having small space robots go out to asteroids to kind of take images, scan, and figure out what minerals are there to enable kind of future interplanetary kind of missions. This was 2015, 16, by the way, right? So not SpaceX, still kind of crashing, blowing up. So very different space industry back then. And to be honest, because we come from like 2006 batch, honestly didn't have much idea on like what career trajectories should look like. So I didn't know we could do like startups, things like that. So I thought of that as like it's a nice project to start. And I didn't know much about space either. So my kind of Australian friend Dr. Will Crow, he was kind of talking to me about it. That's an interesting project. If you're applying robotics in space, that's a hard domain. So we learn something. So we started that as a project. Isuru returned us like, yeah, if like depending on the outcome of this, I'll I'll let you know what happens. And 9 years later, that kind of project kind of matured more and more, and we got the ball rolling. Space industry changed globally. Now we are a company with like 3 offices in like Sydney, London, and US, doing satellite to satellite imagery. So the initial goal was to image asteroids, but we were too early for that. We don't have missions going to Mars or needing like fuel resourced from moon or asteroids yet. But we are building the same technology to look at satellites because there are so many satellites getting launched every year. You need security, awareness, and repair them, all that. So that's the area that we are focusing on. So from a technical point of view, I moved more and more away from like writing code, soldering, all that. So I personally feel a bit stupid now. But at the same time, as Isuru mentioned and Samurdhi mentioned, now because you are kind of leading the roadmap around engineering and meeting customer requirements and trying to figure out how to build the best product, you now are forced to kind of think about at high level, right? What would what would roughly work, what would scale, how not to make a major mistake, right? Minor mistakes are always okay. So that's how how my kind of job looks like today. At the same time, one thing I'm very thankful for University of Pera is the focus on fundamentals. I think that came up quite a few times, because when we were studying, when we go to Colombo, like the slit other, and then we hear about new programming languages, new things, and we're like, oh, I'm not sure like whether we are learning everything we need to. But like in retrospect, like the fundamentals are really well taught at University of Pera, and I'm really grateful for that, because of, if the fundamentals are there, like Isuru mentioned, then you can unlearn and relearn. Things make sense, because it's not just the code you write. There's someone using your code, and their business can be, I don't know, like a restaurant, could be selling clothing, retail. So anything that happens there somehow affects you. So you have to learn about kind of different things to actually kind of do your job. So the fundamentals always matter. And the other thing is your incentives, your wants should also align, right? So some of the questions I'm seeing on the questions and answers, if I kind of think one layer deep, is like, how can I make more money? I totally understand. We are all like from Sri Lanka, we went through like an economic crisis. None of us were like kind of rich or anything. We had to kind of figure our ways through. It's a very fair question, but if you put that first, I haven't seen many people kind of go through the journey and kind of achieve impactful end state. So building something people want and all that. If you do what you love and you do that with passion, so don't do because your friend's doing something or something like that. Don't do anything that you don't like. Make sure you can tolerate, you like what you do, and if you do that continuously, income would be like a byproduct of that. So don't optimize, always optimize for the correct.
Okay, thanks, Hiranya. Yeah, it's very illuminating. And one of the things that it asked, I think this is this one question that is there. I think not too specific question, but the thing that the question asks, can you do this particular degree and move on to some other field, right? So because like your aerospace, whatever that area, like I think what I want to emphasize with what you said is that if you have the fundamentals right, you can actually move on to any other field where your expertise is needed, and because everything is becoming multidisciplinary and a lot of other transferable skills, as mentioned earlier by Isuru, right? So can you just quickly give your thoughts quickly on that one, the right fundamentals, and moving on to the possibility of moving on to any other fields that I think that touch upon what another thing that Dr. Isuru said, that it's like, once you go out, there's so many things to explore, and your horizons becomes larger, right? I mean, we have limited opportunities in Sri Lanka, but if you get the right fundamentals, you can actually go and move on to many other fields, right? So just give you your quick thoughts on that.
Yeah, so if you're doing computer engineering or electronics engineering, like how transistors work matters. So like that level of kind of fundamentals, right? So because conservation of energy, a fundamental, right? So we see once in a while someone running a car with the wind, or running Mercury engines or something like that. How we know that's not going to scale or not going to work is not a new innovation, is conservation of energy, right? So fundamentals in physics, fundamentals in in computer engineering, which is pretty much pushing the limits of physics, right? So anything that you learn on the hardware side, software side, don't forget that. So let's say Copilot comes in, or I don't know, like React comes in, the latest web framework, it's all like, it's totally fine to explore that and have fun with that. But sometimes we see CVs with like, okay, I've done projects in these 20 things. I'm expert in these 25 things. Like we kind of usually put that aside. What we want to know is someone worked on a single project. This was a challenge. This is the biggest mistake I made. I understand now why that mistake was made. This is how I rectified that. They get a more of a chance. So it's a very hard thing to do. Like that's because you are in a batch of 100 people. Different people are doing different things. It's very hard to not compare to someone else. I'm not saying like I'm doing that either. It's very hard, but stick to kind of the basic concepts that are kind of taught to you at the university. Don't forget them. Don't think like, this is not useful, therefore I'll work on these other things, because that seems to be the latest thing to do. Even with like generative AI things coming in, kind of learn about how LLMs work. What does it mean? How does it really work? Is it actually intelligent or not? Kind of dig deep and go to the fundamentals. That would actually make your life easier down the line. Because even now, if we are producing cameras on I don't know any of the details, and I have to trust our engineers on like the CAD model being correct and all that. I'm thinking about like the most basic things.
Okay, thanks, Hiranya. Right. Now, so sorry for keeping you for last, Dinindu, but I was wanted to, because this is the most unusual. Like, I mean, not unusual, but something that has not happened in mostly in our history. Like, what you get is like people go into the local industry, or they go for higher studies and get into. But you just straight away went to a foreign company right away. What made you do that first? And like, I mean, that is quite a statement about our degree as well, I assume, right? Because
Yes.
it's one of the top companies in the world, and hiring one of our graduates straight away is, I think, a testament of our degree as well. So give us your story.
Okay, and first of all, thank you very much for having me in this session, Asitha. And I'll introduce myself. So, Isuru sir gave an introduction about myself at the beginning, so I'll give some more info. So I'm from E16 batch, and I graduated in 2023. So it's right after the COVID period. So I had to work mostly work from home at the last 2 years of my degree because of COVID. So it was somewhat challenging period, and we had to went through lot of stuff in the internship period as well, because we applied to some foreign institute and stuff, but almost all of them moved to work from home strategy. So I had to do a remote internship at that as well. So when coming to the industry, I always had a passion about computer architecture stuff and IoT and robotic and stuff. So I was not very much interested in software engineering and AI and stuff. So I choose the subjects almost related to the embedded systems, computer architecture. And I was very fortunate to go through the restructured syllabus from our department to went that path. And initially I thought like I wanted to do some like impactful thing to the world and to the industry. So I thought like the way to go forward is to do higher studies and then moving to the global industry. So I had that plan in my mind, but I was keep developing my skills, and then I applied to a lot of companies even before I get graduated. So fortunately, I got the opportunity from mom. So at that point, I had to decide like, do I want to go for higher studies, and then, or do I have to move my career to like the industry and get the exposure? But I was a bit nervous about that because like if you go through like the higher studies path, I can get more exposure to the industry and things and the innovations happening in the world. And like I can get some idea about where's the world going. But I thought like it's a good challenge to like go to a company that does things that make the world like make an impact in the current industry. So I thought of like giving it a try. It's a huge challenge, but I went to work at ARM. So I thought like and I met most of the graduates from there, and I can say that our degree in University of Pera is very much comparable with the other degrees, and I had to work with other graduates from various other countries and various other universities. So like when comparing with the things they had done in their bachelor's and the things we are doing in Pera, I think we are mostly doing better in that area. So like if I want to like give an advice to the students, try to follow your passion and try to do something make you happy, and try to apply a lot of companies if you want to go to the industry, or if you want to go to research side, try to apply as much as you can. You will get rejected definitely, but don't think about it. Apply again and try to make yourself great, and try to like build your skills, and don't be afraid to go ahead. And yes.
Thanks, Dinindu. So I think we are we're at the end of the planned time, but if you gentlemen are open to staying, we can have a few answer a few open questions based on the questions that are there, as well as the general sense of things. But if you need to leave, I understand as well, and the students are to stay. So let's have a couple of quick general questions that we see this thing, right? So one of the things I know we at the beginning, we looked at Ahesh started with saying it's like this it's a global industry now, right? But the question that keeps coming up, right, is about the opportunities in the local industry, what is there, and so I'm also thinking that we are, as Ahesh really rightly started, we are looking at it the wrong way, right? So, but no, to look at if you look at the current status of the industry and where it's going, how do you see this? The gap between the opportunities in the local industry and overseas, or in the global market. And how do you think that our students should look at the job market going forward? It's open to everybody. Because we see this concern with everybody, and if you would like, I will add another question to that one, which is now coming up, and I would also like answers from our AI expert as well, from Samurdhi. So one of the question is like how the industry is going to be affected by AI, or basically is AI going to take up our jobs? And I think again, Samurdhi answered that without mentioning. But these two questions, like the local versus global industry, how's the gap with respect to the opportunities, the wages, and so on, and what's going to really happen with this the Gen AI and all that. So it's open to all our experts to answer in your context.
Yeah, I think yeah, related to this, like Meta announced like maybe 2 days ago that they are replacing some of their mid-level engineers with Gen AI, like copilots they built internally. So it's already happening. And I do see it making it extremely difficult to. I think especially in Silicon Valley, it's becoming very, very competitive to the point that we've had like layoffs in the past few quarters. There are like extremely senior engineers who are still trying to find work. So it's kind of becoming a bloodbath where there's a lot of like experienced people who are out of work, and there are new grads coming in. So over the past couple of years, I think the job market has become so competitive, and it's only going to become even more competitive because there's precedence now when a company as big as Meta starts doing layoffs specifically to fill those kind of mid-level roles with some co-pilots or like Gen AI, then that's a very a bad sign. I think it's unavoidable. So yeah, it's definitely I think so what I think I'll go back to what I said, which is just focus on like highlighting what you've done like outside of your degree. Like it's not, I mean, you have to have the GPA, that's first and foremost, but I think if you've shown initiative and if you've shown that you are able to take like leadership and drive certain projects, I think those kind of indicators are becoming more important because we kind of look for those when reviewing CVs. And that's what I would say. Just put yourself out there, get involved in kind of open source projects, like not just that, but also kind of try to develop something yourself and put it out there. And I think that's going to be really helpful moving forward. That's just my opinion and what I'm seeing currently happening.
Maybe another
To-
point that
just to
I'd like
kind
to
of-
add, especially
and repetitive right? Repetitive jobs that can be replaced will be replaced. But then the other side of it, like the skills, the design skills, and the fundamentals, right? So I think and we see this, even the current latest World Economic Forecast. It's actually saying the number of jobs are going to increase, but what's going to happen is actually what it says is like I think the famous saying is AI is not going to replace you. Somebody using AI will, right? So I think this is that we have seen. So what do you think? I mean, this is something. Is it something that some people say just to make themselves feel better, or is it how it's really going to be? Or are we going to all be replaced? I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
One additional comment around all of this, I think since there's a buzz around AI and I mean, what we've been doing over the years has been always changing, and the tools that we were using always has been changing. But as of a basic, I think what we've been doing over the times, doing the system developments, doing more integrations, connecting the world in a digital landscape. So that I think will continue to be in different spaces. So around AI, one of the biggest, like sometimes even this is something that like I also kind of hear from different companies is viewpoint also. Students blindly jumping into having AI components or AI projects might not work there, because we've been seeing a very blind engagements on like I mean, even sometimes when we ask in interview what's your final year project, rather than telling the project, what their immediate answer is AI project, ML project. Which is not actually is helping. And sometimes if you actually dig in deeper, it's just that like they have utilized some tool to use. I mean, it is very common for any engineer to have calling API or utilizing some of the other segments and then doing the work. So one thing, please don't blindly jump into AI just to have a bit of a fancy segments in your CVs or other places. Only if that makes sense, then do engage. But as of an engineering tool, try to utilize as much as tools that you have on your place. Whenever there are new tools that are coming up, have at least a bit of understanding on like what's the advantages that you can get from these specific tools. Because as engineers, if you are not using the tools that are getting up, then those, I mean, that's obviously a pathway to like kind of a natural death. So we'll have to figure out that path. But on the other side, I mean, if you are going to the research and the development on the AI aspects of, there's again like more than enough opportunities now coming in. So there are also, I think, one of the best option, especially coming from computer engineering background, is rather focusing on narrow IT industry level engagements. Try to think of the broader industry perspective where you can actually like do engage certain other industries and how exactly you can focus on that. For example, I mean, even when it comes to AI and things like that, things that are happening in the power energy, and likewise, there are a lot more industries that need a lot more technological solutions. So I think that focus also has to be there. And the other kind of maybe a bit of a request also, and I saw in some of the questions also, within the early years itself, figure out why you want to stay in computer engineering and related fields, because that sometimes is the kind of problem that we are also having right now when we have increased numbers coming in. It has been a quite good wild card one for a really good salary, and also has been a really good wild card for migration options. And that with that, like we've been also getting more and more talent doing computing related programs in the country, not because they are actually interested in computer engineering or related fields, just because of some of the perks that they can get. That is sometimes a bit of a, I mean, you might get succeed on that path, but it's much better if you can figure out something within the computer engineering domains that you are really interested in, because otherwise it can get boring if you are just focusing on that side of things. But if you ask anyone who's I mean, I saw even some questions. If you ask anyone who's actually having a bit of a natural interest in computing, are you actually enjoying your work and things that they do? They pretty much enjoy, because there are things that they like doing. So figure out that early as much as possible. The best way to figure out that early is to try out different things. Maybe like try out, just rather than only focusing on one specific area, try out some embedded project, try out some GPU, old AI, IoT, and different time of things, because within the times that you have in the university, you can try more than enough things, different small projects. And that will also help you understand bit of much better pathway that you are more interested in, that you can enjoy and will be a bit helpful regardless whether you stay in the country, go outside, or whether you stay in the academia or take in entrepreneurial path.
That's Dhammika. I think again to summarize, it's like it's not just in computer engineering, right? And I think that's answer to one of the questions as has Hiranya has mentioned. Having a computer engineering degree will allow you to move on to many other things because everybody needs technical solutions, whether it's dental, medicine, agriculture, and so on, right? Hiranya, just to you can just re-emphasize what you have written there as the answer.
Yeah, pretty much. I kind of answered one of the questions because when we say kind of can we move to that industry or this industry, they are actually application areas. Of course, like you can't make rocket fuel by studying. You have to do kind of chemical science and material science, all that. I'm not talking about this, but each subject has an application domain. Space is also an application domain, similar to an agriculture field. You might need to learn certain things, but it's another place or a thing. And all of these need self-driving cars, pretty much software engineering and embedded systems. A couple of days ago, Starship, they kind of landed back to the launch pad. Pretty sure there's plenty of control algorithms, software engineering, redundancy, live stream of that. How do you kind of provide coverage when there's so much noise and other disruptions around antennas? Again, software engineering comes into play. So this cross domain is becoming like very normal, and regardless of your role, whatever you do, most of the people who are working nowadays are sitting in front of a computer. So that speaks to the domination of this discipline itself. So you should kind of, if I did this, I would have lost some opportunity somewhere else. And the reverse has happened as well. Like a doctor might because there's this always this thing with like domain expertise. There's people who are very knowledgeable about, let's say, a certain cancer or a certain type of medicine, and then they want to kind of now scale that. And then this is where like computer engineering comes in, and they kind of join together and then find solutions. So that's so pretty much it's a normal thing nowadays.
Yeah. So again, once again, to put it in perspective, so you have the technological experts and you have the domain experts. You need to bring these two together. Either we can move on to that domain and understand that domain and come solutions, so they have to move on to the technology side, but they will not as go and learn the electronics as you have done, or right? So it's always a compromise. But if you can bring this together, you can actually solve problems or your work in any domain you like.
Yeah, 100%. And if you take any product that you love, like take the favorite technological piece you have, this is like an exercise, and then break it down and think about every aspect of it and see like what kind of jobs are needed, and you will find out pretty much every type of job. So that's the truth.
Exactly.
There are a few questions around like even this comparing degrees and all of that also. So on that aspect, you are in a university that has like all these other domains also. So it's a pretty easy place if you want to jump into any area. And we've been seeing like really good projects that are happening from the department, engaging like all these other cross domains. Because I mean, just a small walk for any different fields, and you can find expertise in most of these area and try to utilize that as well, because that's not a luxury most of the people would get in their universities and the programs that they have, which you are having. So try to get a bit of a more benefit on that as well.
And to extend Dhammika's point, not many universities have 7 different
the faculties.
Yeah, so exactly.
It's 9 now. It's 9 now.
9 now, yeah. So you can walk up to like the medical faculty, find out like how X-rays, like we in retrospect, we haven't done enough. Like now I think about it, but we still kind of switched kind of the departments and faculties. We did cross collaboration, work, learn from each other. So that's a great opportunity that you have in Pera, Dini.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank.
I also want to add something, Dr. Asitha. I know
Yeah.
that
Go ahead. Yes.
questions are open as well as the forum is open. So I've also been answering a couple of questions in the Q&A also, like the Dhammika touched upon many areas, and then Hiranya also said. So it's like there are multiple aspects of looking at things, right? So I also wanted to open a couple of other angles as well, so that you all can think about it. We talked about basics, fundamentals, and then the design skills. We need to have them right. Yes, it is a must because if I am sharing my interviewing experience, the moment I became a senior software engineer, I started interviewing interns and software engineers, right? So for the last 15 years, now I'm at the 15th year of my experience now. We've been interviewing people, right? So in a lot of other universities, even including foreign universities, I got chances to interview University of Texas also. So in that case, what I would like to emphasize is when you meet people, when you get a lot of CVs, like Hiranya said, they put everything that they have done, right? But there are different people, maybe they will take, a couple of things only, and then they talk about them, sticking to what they learn. Right, so that is the most fundamental thing that we are looking for, because you can list down 10 different technologies or 10 different projects that you did in 10 different programming languages, right? But let's say if my company is not using any of those things, right, so would we consider them, right? So maybe we will look for someone else, right? So it doesn't always but in a different angle we can think, okay, so this guy has done 10 things, maybe he can easily learn the 11th one, right? So that is also a different angle, right? So there's no right or wrong way, to say that, this is what you need to put, this is what you need to omit, or this is what you need to remove from your CV. This is how you need to explain. Oh, only thing is, all like you need to understand is like these students, they'll start going to interviews for their internship. I saw a couple of questions like, can we apply for foreign companies for internships? So you have an example, right? So I think Dinindu, he directly applied for job, right? So straight away from the faculty. So there are examples, right? Just talk to them, right? And then just go and search, right? So look for their websites and then see whether they are hiring interns from other countries. It's very straightforward, right? So I don't think I mean, if they are willing to hire, right? Because I have seen many people, even in Moratuwa, when I was doing my master's, I have met many of students. Them, they have they have done their internship in foreign universities, foreign companies. So that's very easy, right? So right now, I mean, it's well connected. And the other side of it is I saw a question. I actually answered that related to comparing universities, and then they're asking for whether we will have a added benefit being undergraduate from University of Pera compared to other maybe private universities and so on. So like I said, and like many of these panelists said, we will only look for the basics and the design skills and the fundamental skills, right? Because when we analyze something, like just think about it, right? So I think Hiranya gave a best example. Like when you think about something, you only will start think of the fundamentals, otherwise you can't understand a problem, right? Because the problem comes in very high level, right? People come and say this doesn't work, right? So we restarted the server, then it works. That is how people come and say sometimes, right? So my website is stuck, right? So it doesn't load anything, but when I restart the API, it works. Or when I restart the database server, it starts working. How it happens, right? So you restart it. What do you do when you restart, right? What is the thing actually getting restarted, right? So just think about your maybe your toy, right? Or anything like your computer or something like that, right? Or maybe your any electronic device, something. So just think about it. So that is where you will build up to the question, right? That is where you will understand the roots. The moment you know the root cause, you know the solution, right? So until you get to the root cause, you're still struggling. But like it is common with any other problems, right? So that is what actually we are mainly looking for, right? So if you ask me, are you looking for like how many programming languages that you're looking for? Like what's the score that I need to have? So I don't say anything, right? Because like right now, even now, right? So like most recently, what I did was I got 2 candidates. Actually, the initial interviews have gone, and then they have scored like very similar, but I only had one opportunity, right? So what I then that interview came to me. What I did was I gave them. I actually interviewed them at the same time, right? So I gave them a small exercise, very small exercise. Right? They will write the code in like 5 minutes for that exercise. But what I looked at is how they start and then how they do it, right? So the moment you open your ID and then the moment you start your coding, will explain how do you know it and then what extent that you have used it, right? So people sometimes people will get panic, right? So because I'm an interview, so but if you know the things right, if you know the fundamentals, because that is the very basic way that you need to do it, right? So there's no other way. That is the easiest way, right? So you will stick to the principles and then you will go ahead and do it. So likewise, I just wanted to add some more detail. I know time is also up, but think in that angle, right? So don't just straight away look at the bigger problems, but go level by level down, and then you will find the root cause. That is where you will need the fundamentals and the basic skills. Yeah.
Thanks, Ahesh. Yeah, so I think we discussed a lot of things. Isuru, Dr. Isuru Navin, do you have, or Roshan, if you are around, I haven't seen. Do you have any questions that you would like to ask the panelists?
Can I add something to what Mr. Dhammika brought up? I think he mentioned, and also this is about kind of how to find jobs and how to stand out in in an increasingly Gen AI workspace, right? So I think one of the things that you could do is to be kind of a producer of AI rather than a consumer of it, right? So what we look for is, let's say, you are doing a project where you are consuming AI, you are just using an API to do, some application of AI to like, analyze sentiment or whatever it is, right? If you're just using AI, that doesn't really stand out much, right? But if you're actually adding value to AI, right? You came up with like some sort of, fine-tuning algorithm, right? You come up with some sort of way to accelerate LLMs on, like, let's say GPU or something else, right? So you're adding value to that others can use, right? So I think that's where you will start to differentiate yourself. You're not just using AI on some application. You find something that hasn't been touched and you just apply. That's not very interesting. But if you're adding value to AI, there's so much demand for people like that who've actually created something in AI. So I think, yeah, doing AI research in approaching AI in that mind space where you are trying to come up with something new. So I think that's a good way to look at it. And I think those kind of jobs are going to be very much in demand. I think the salaries that are kind of talked about in the valley is kind of insane. So yeah, there's so much demand.
Okay. Thanks, Samurdhi.
Sorry, I want to add something. I wanted to say to the especially for the new cohort that's joining computer. So one thing you need to think of, because you are starting your career, and think of this as a journey, because you are going to be a computer engineer doing one of the things, applications in the computing domain. So this is a journey. You can either sit in the driving seat or you can sit in the back seat. Sitting in the driving seat means you are the one in charge of driving your career. So this is being proactively looking into how the landscape of computing is changing. So if you when we were studying computing, it was Java. So if I just learned Java and became a Java front-end or back-end developer, at one point I'm going to hit the wall and that will be the end of it. So you need to be proactive and changing your things you learn and changing the journey as the landscape moves. So I'm not doing the same job I was doing 20 years ago. So this take into account this factor. And being proactive means not just changing things. When you learn something, so you, let's say computer architecture or anything, don't just take the lecturer's word for it. I mean, for example, if you learn computer architecture, they will say, okay, there are 3-stage pipeline or 5-stage pipeline. Don't just remember, okay, there is 3 stage, these are the stage, and go to the exam, these are the stage, and that's it. Don't take that route. That's you are sitting in the back seat. So when you learn something, try to question it, why it is done in that way. Can we change it? Okay, can we change it in this way? And make use of the resource you have. You have a very good cohort of academics in the department. Go to them, ask them, okay, I was looking in the way you taught us this yesterday. I had this thought. Can we change it this way? Maybe this spans out in a smaller project and then could eventually become a bigger project. And that is the thing, that is the kind of skill we want to see. So if you come to the interview, we will not ask you to list 5 things you learned. That's anyone can go to Wikipedia and memorize and come to the interview. And in the first 10 minutes, we know that you just memorized and there's a no-go. What we want to see is how you approach a problem and how you solve it. So if you're saying, I have done this in my project, that's great. Okay, so we are going to start it. We are going to expand. So within an hour or two, we are going to try to see how you can push that project to the next level. That's the skill we want to see from you. So that is the skill you can't learn within 6 months. That is something you have to build within several years. So that's why I'm saying be proactive, ask questions, challenge things, and be in the driving seat of your career journey. That's how you get to where you want to be. So that's the key message I want to emphasize to the new students. That's very important. Please take that in.
Small
Yeah,
minus.
thanks, Isuru. I think, yeah.
Maybe
Okay,
today
yeah.
itself, you all can like work on a CV and more like extended CV, and then you will figure out like okay, I am lacking in these areas, and over the years, I think the next few years that you have work on like filling out some of the areas that you are having. One of the key problem that sometimes you also see with the CVs, you'll have this bunch of projects, but when you ask from one, some of the common answers are like, it was a group project. I don't know what exactly happened in this part. Likewise, so whatever you have in the CV, know it well, at least at the higher understanding. Different companies may utilize different interviewing styles. Some of the things that we use is we ask you to pick up any project that you have done based on your interest, and then what we try to do is try to go through the decisions that you have taken there, why you decided this or other. Can be technology stacks, can be different paradigm that you have used, different database choices likewise, and then we also try to upscale that solution to a level that you can imagine, because that's the easiest way we can learn, because then you don't have to stick into one specific language or a specific domain, because that's a project that you have selected based on your interest and since you know it. So make sure that like you are quite good in terms of like taking this decision, even if it is a good project, given that like you will get to do multiple group projects and all of the things within the university. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do group projects. In the industry, all we do are group projects because we cast teams, but have an understanding on like why we say take certain decisions, certain architecture level decisions, and certain other design level decisions, because that's what actually is important, because we have right now more than enough tools that we can utilize in engineering. So you have both of these compute science and the engineering, and I think EOE still has that phase, why that differs from science and engineering. So try to figure out why you have this engineer and what exactly are the certain decisions that you can take in each of these milestones.
Thanks, Dhammika, and okay, I think we have emphasized, you know, a lot on what they're supposed to do and all that. I'm very thankful. You know, we have, I think, gone through so many things, and I'm not going to summarize all that because, you know, we went through so many things, right? So let me first of all thank the panelists, and it's so good to have you and, you know, share your experience with the next generation. I hope they gained a lot through these questions and your answers. I'm going to hand it back to Isuru. It's open for you to ask questions as well, and wrap it up.
Right, thanks. Just looking at the questions that popped up in the Q&A section. So one thing, Dhammika actually answered right now one of the questions that I wanted to bring up, which was during the discussion, somebody asked, what are these design skills? What do you mean by design skills? We kept saying that design skills are important, and Dhammika touched upon that is exactly what a design skill is. So you have your knowledge on certain things, and you're, at the end of the day, as an engineer, you're designing something, designing a system. So when designing a system, you have to make decisions. How do you apply your knowledge to make the decision, right? So you had to apply whatever the fundamental knowledge that you gather and the advanced knowledge to make a lot of decisions. The skill is that design skills, meaning that is exactly what, how do you apply your knowledge to make those decisions. So anyone want to maybe add something to that question about design skills very quickly?
I think one of the best way that most of the people can try out is whatever the domains that they have, there are more than enough giants in these different areas. So try to have a bit of understanding on what's happening and like how these certain technologies or certain bigger systems are being built, because that will be more helpful in terms of getting into more in engineering. I think as of a pathway, and even like when you do different projects, try to like go on these different pathways. And the second that one, I mean, as people who are in the technology, we sometimes love technology, but people on the other domains, what they concerns is not the technology, getting the solution. So maybe we love certain technology and we love to do certain projects in certain technologies, and that might not be the silver bullet for the problem that we have in hand. So I think we'll have to play around these two when you are in the journey.
Thanks, Dhammika. And
just to sorry,
yeah, go
so
ahead.
yeah, one exercise, I think something that helped me is you can like pick anything and think about like how does that work, right? That would kind of improve your design skills, because if you think about it, this call is like a miracle. Like we are so far apart, and there's 101 participants there, 11 here, and it's kind of working live, pixels coming through. Like how does that even work like seamlessly? And Zoom right now is kind of hosting probably thousands of similar calls. How does that work? Like where can you have, like how can you break that down? What do you like? I don't know the answer. So you can spend like 2-3 days figure out what's happening. Then why didn't Skype work? You might find those answers. Why is Zoom more popular than something else? Why is that other software laggy? So this is what, like, these exercises help you understand why, like what you don't know, and also find very interesting things, by the way.
Thanks, Jan.
To add the thing I mentioned earlier, so it's the extension of that. So you teach computer architecture, Isuru and Dr. Roshan and all of that. So when students follow in that, you will say, this is a load instruction, this is what it does, gets the data from memory. And most of us will work out from the lecture room, load gets the data, that's it. But how does it actually work? So can you make an extension to it? I mean, think on those things. That's, I mean, this is if you want to go in the microarchitect and become a microarchitect of CPU and all of that. So the moment you learn this from is in a lecture, if you start thinking on that, that's your first lesson of trying to get into the journey of being a microarchitect. So if you don't go on that path, if you just learn, walk out, and then go to the exam and say, this is a load, this is how it works, that's it. So you're stuffing yourself. So these are the skills that you need, because that will shine you out. You go to the interview, that's the one going to shine you out, because we are not going to ask you how load works. We will ask you to extend it to do something fancy. If you can answer that, okay, we get you. That's the person I want in my team. That's the kind of skill. So change your mentality, be proactive. That's the major skill.
Thank you so much. So very important points highlighted by both of you. One particular point that was not, we didn't really try to address. There are a couple of questions on the chat about opportunities in cyber security domain. Can we maybe shed a little bit of light on that and then wrap up?
It's painful. Is what I'm not a cybersecurity expert, but we run a company, we communicate with satellites, so painful. I think this, if someone's really passionate about cybersecurity, I think there will be many opportunities, because it's a niche area, it's going under the radar, everyone's interested in AI. So cyber would be a very interesting topic to work on. And I think cyber would also have like a similar technological jump compared to AI as well, because there would be like quantum breakthroughs coming through, and then encryptions on that. So if you have fundamentals on cyber, I think you would be kind of now like listening to this. I don't want everyone to do cybersecurity. Right? That's the other problem. So there would be interesting opportunities, and I think there's like a future boom on cybersecurity which we haven't reached yet. So if someone's passionate, do that. I think that would be a very exciting future there.
Just want to add around, especially on cyber and AI, there are more than enough opportunities. And if you look at most of the reports that are coming also, those two always are on the trending. But figure out what exactly as an engineering graduate you can do, especially around cyber security. We see more roles on the compliance and those aspects. I mean, if you size out the numbers, because though the need is at much higher level, the role of the engineers in that is sometimes not as much as the hype sometimes you would see in certain places. So whenever there are hypes, try to figure out like what are the, try to break down the hypes into the related area that you are working on. Otherwise, whoever who's working on the hypes also could sometimes get beneficial on especially certain of these emerging areas.
Thanks, Dhammika and Hiranya. So wrapping up, I'll highlight one more point from the questions. This question was answered by both Ahesh and Samurdhi. The question was on whether there's a particular advantage that the graduates of Pera will get over graduates from other places. Private universities was highlighted there. Or are we all on the same boat? So Ahesh very clearly pointed out, regardless of where you are graduating from, what matters would be your skills and your fundamental knowledge. What's your skill set? What are you bringing to the table when you're applying to a job at a company or a PhD position or whatever career path that you choose, right? So like everyone here pointed out, the senior members pointed out, when we're interviewing someone, we are looking at your ability to solve problems, and then what added advantage are you bringing to our team, right? That is how interviews are looking at it, companies and even professors who are looking for PhD students. They are all looking at this from that angle. So yeah, so your skill set and fundamental knowledge, they are what matters, not where you are graduating from. But that said, Samurdhi again correctly pointed out, network matters. The network of people that you get access to, again, matters in the world. That is how the world works. If you know more people, you have more opportunities. So being a Pera graduate, you have access to other Pera alumni who are already out there in senior positions, who have created companies. So, here I'm also from Pera. What sort of opportunities are available there would give, people would look at it and then maybe open doors for you, show you some opportunities. But you should be prepared to grab those opportunities. If you are not well prepared with your skills and your fundamentals, no matter how many opportunities will be open for you by the network, you can't grab them. So you have to be prepared. Right? So that is the thing that you're supposed to do while you're here as students, right? Prepare as much as possible. And like many of the panel members pointed out, you need to get hands-on to do all these things. Everyone here, the panel members from the alumni, did a lot of hands-on work, which let them learn a lot of things, build a lot of skills. That is how they were prepared. When doors were open for them, they could go in and then impress the people inside, right? So I think with that, we can wrap up. Yeah, Shoda, shall we wrap up the session?
Yes, sure. So it was such an insightful session. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank our wonderful resource persons, Mr. Ahesh Perera, Mr. Dhammika Marasinghe, Mr. Dinindu Thilakarathna, Dr. Hiranya Jayakody, Dr. Isuru Herath, Mr. Kushan Senanayaka, and Mr. Samurdhi Karunarathne. So thank you very much for taking the time to share your incredible experiences, your stories, your journey, and a lot of valuable insights with us. I know that you all are very busy, so it truly means a lot to us that you accepted our invitation to be here today. A special thank goes to Dr. Asitha Bandarayanaye for moderating the session and steering the discussion very smoothly. I'd also like to thank all the lecturers present here today, including our head of the department, Professor Roshan Ragat. So this event wouldn't have been possible without the help of our instructors and the students, especially representing ASS. So thank you all for the support you have provided. Finally, to our students, I hope that this session was an eye-opener to you about the many exciting opportunities that are out there that you can grab as soon as you graduate or even before that. I believe that you will take what you have learned here today and apply it when you're deciding on your future career paths. One day, we'd love to see you coming back here as our resource persons and sharing your success stories with your juniors, meaning the future batches of the department. So thank you all once again. I wish you all the very best in your future endeavors.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you all. It's nice to you. Thank you. Bye.
Dr. Isuru, I shared few links on the chat. Maybe if you can share with them later on, that will be.
Will do. I'll take a note of them. Thanks, Dhammika. Thank you so much.